Everyone, please now turn to page 13 of the textbook and read the very first line carefully. Diligence. On the previous page, briefly, we saw Amitabha in his causal stage. Made vast and truly great vows. I've already given you a very detailed explanation about this, just so you know. After making vows, there must be action. If there's no action, then the vow is an empty vow. We call this a hollow vow, which can never be fulfilled. Of course, there's no way to talk about any kind of achievement. So let's reflect on our own practice. Why is it that, even after spending so much time, we still don't achieve anything? The reason is that we have vows and make promises, but we do not take real action to carry them out. We have understanding and knowledge, but we do not truly put that understanding into realization. So we are still using a mind caught in samsara to create karmic actions that keep us in samsara. That's our problem, and it's not a small one. It's a serious problem, and we absolutely cannot afford to be even the slightest bit careless about it. Let's have a look. Bodhisattva becomes Buddha. The key lies in the mutual support that naturally develops between aspiration and practice. Each one helps to strengthen and sustain the other, allowing both to grow together. Buddhahood can be achieved. We say that among lay practitioners, many of us have some foundation. The more time you spend listening to the teachings, the better, of course, as always. The Buddha set the best example for us in our practice, guiding us with his actions and wisdom so that we may follow his path. Especially a good example for monastics. In the Buddha's time, the remarkable layman Vimalakirti was a truly exceptional and inspiring example for lay practitioners. When we talk about the Buddha, to sum it up, among people of that era, both monastic and lay, Vimalakirti stood out. Vimalakirti, he is lay practitioner. The Buddha clearly told us in the sutras that, indeed, that was the lay Buddha, while Shakyamuni Buddha is the Buddha who is now ordained. Not only has the teaching and expounding of the Dharma never stopped over all the ages, the world-honored one never stopped teaching the Dharma, always sharing wisdom and guidance. And when has layman Vimalakirti ever stopped either, even for a moment? For all sentient beings, it's not just about teaching with words. What's even more important is teaching by example. He truly achieved this. He truly set an example for others. He accomplished it perfectly to the utmost. So, this chapter highlights utmost sincerity and diligence, with genuine dedication to the highest degree. In our modern terms, it's about being truly sincere and having all kinds of supreme intentions and actions. This is something we must learn and truly understand and take to heart. The Buddhist sutras often say, to truly enter the path, you must first listen carefully and attentively. Arousing the mind comes first, then consistent practice leads to genuine realization, and, above all, renouncing desire always takes priority. If you still have desires, then wholeheartedly restrain them and put your great vows into practice. So, this chapter actually begins here, right now. Now, let's look carefully at the scripture, the very first section of the text together, as a group. Dharmakara makes his vow. I don't need to elaborate on this topic, as it's quite clear to everyone. Bhikkhu Dharmakara recites this verse, and you were originally a Buddha as well. Now, for the sake of the Bodhisattva path, I also give rise to the aspiration for unsurpassed enlightenment, vowing to become a Buddha and to practice as the Buddhas do. Let's look at this section. The previous sentence summarizes the previous text. Recites this verse refers to the lines of verse mentioned earlier. After reciting them, he turns to the Buddha. Please send. Just look at his attitude, will you? Can you believe how he's acting right now, behaving like that in front of everyone? Now, for the sake of the Bodhisattva path. It's not for himself. This line is exactly like, in many ways, Sudarna's 53 visits in the Avatamsaka Sutra. Shant Sai. Every time he visited a spiritual teacher, he would first pay his respects with great reverence. After paying his respects, he offers praise. All of this is about proper etiquette. When it comes to conduct, it's about self-discipline. As for people, they are our virtuous teachers. As for the teachings, we must show respect. In Chinese culture, we talk about respecting teachers and valuing the way, and this is reflected in the rituals of seeking teachings. This ritual is very important. The other person can tell from your behavior and your words whether you're genuinely sincere about learning and practicing. If you are truly sincere and dedicated in your studies, they will most definitely do their very best to help you, without hesitation. But if your attitude and your actions are consistently, and even overly arrogant, your words are all show and lack substance. Oh, your language might sound beautiful. It all sounds very nice. But what happens when people take a closer look? They can see you are not truly sincere, so this virtuous teacher will just be polite, give you compliments, maybe even praise you, but they won't actually teach you. Why is that? Because teaching you would be a waste of effort. Since you're not genuinely keen to learn, they simply won't teach you. So, this act of showing respect is really a reflection of your attitude towards seeking knowledge. Don't you think that's incredibly important? Now, some people might ask, I've never learned this before. I don't know how to do it. Do I really need to learn? If it's truly in your heart, it will naturally show on the outside. The uneducated and uneducated old countrymen and women have never seen a citizen in their lives. Their pure and kind hearts, full of goodness and sincerity, are clearly reflected in their gentle and radiant appearance. The real question is, do you have that pure heart? Anyone in the world who's knowledgeable or experienced can quite easily see it straight away. No need. Anyone with virtue can tell, let alone the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. How could you possibly hide it from them? So after Sudarna pays his respects, the very first thing he does is state his wish. He says, I have already. Body-mind. But I don't know how to practice the Bodhisattva path or follow the Bodhisattva's conduct. Only then does he ask spiritual teacher give guidance. First, you have to set your intention. If you don't, you have no ambition, your practice has no direction, no goal, no guiding principle, so what's the point of anyone talking to you about anything? You must first make sure that you've already developed the great body-mind. Then the 10 mobile phones before the monk Fa Zanga Chenbai, who has already developed the Supreme Bodhisattva. So he's already achieved something in his own practice. Why is that? Because the Bodhisattva path is all about saving sentient beings. It's not for yourself. For the long-lasting presence of the Buddha's teachings in the world. To stand in for all Buddhas and Tathagatas to save all beings is what it means to walk the Bodhisattva path. This week is the pivotal point in our practice, the key to our success or failure, as the choices and efforts we make now will directly influence whether we reach the goals we have set for ourselves or fall short, making We practice not just in this life, not just in this one lifetime. Fellow practitioners of the Buddha's teachings can all accept that people have a past and a future, and that the past has no beginning. To borrow the words from the Buddhist scriptures, cultivation over countless kalpas. After cultivating over countless kalpas, we are still like this today. Why is that? Over the course of time, in our past lives, so many fellow practitioners, companions on the path, and Dharma friends who cultivated alongside us have already become Buddhas, have become Bodhisattvas, and have transcended the 8 realms. Yet we are still stuck in the cycle of 6 realms of rebirth. Why is that? We really can't afford not to know. We are truly confused and deluded. We sometimes deceive ourselves, acting on our own selfish thoughts and impulses, and often putting our personal interests and desires ahead of everything else. They all frequently do things that, in various ways, harm others and ultimately benefit themselves. We mistakenly think that harming others will somehow benefit us. But we have no idea that harming others absolutely does us no good. Helping others is actually helping ourselves. How many people really understand this principle? All the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and great masters have earnestly and tirelessly tried to teach us, but we just don't listen, or we don't understand. So, of course, we've never truly followed their teachings. We still just go along with our troubled, selfish nature. That's why, even after countless lifetimes of practice, we are still stuck in the cycle of the 6 realms of rebirth. We just can't break free. But here, we see that when Dharmakara made the vow for supreme enlightenment, that vow means he made a resolution, a sincere and determined promise to achieve the highest wisdom and compassion, which is what supreme enlightenment refers to. His goal was absolutely single-minded, to become a Buddha, to truly and fully fulfill his vow to become a Buddha. That's precisely what it means to achieve the supreme aspiration, the highest possible goal. We don't have this ambition. In China, among the great masters of the past, we only see this particular teaching or approach clearly presented in the Platform Sutra, which is a renowned Buddhist scripture specifically associated with Master Huineng, the 6th patriarch of Chen Buddhism. He's the only one. He went to Huangmai to pay his respects, and the 5th patriarch asked him, "Why have you come here?" "I've come to become a Buddha." So he became a Buddha, just as he wished. Why have we come to this temple today? I've never heard anyone say, "We've come to this temple to become a Buddha." Never heard of it. That's why you can't become a Buddha. Why is that? You have no intention of becoming a Buddha. You don't want to be Buddha. That's it. That's why the ancients said that cultivation is awakening. The most urgent thing in cultivation is to make a vow, to set your intention. So when we look at this scripture, right at the very beginning, it actually talks about the four great vows. Subheading says give up attachments, cut off afflictions, achieve Buddhahood, save all beings. Or to put it in simpler terms, you need to set your mind on genuinely caring for all living beings. Care for all living beings with compassion and do your utmost to help everyone unconditionally, giving your best effort to support others. This says, the mind of supreme enlightenment. If your thoughts and intentions are still for yourself, or partly for others, but you haven't let go of yourself, then you are still caught up in a delusion. You haven't fully awakened yet. You're not truly enlightened. True awakening means you have to completely cut off deluded feelings. So what are deluded feelings? Me, selfishness, these are deluded feelings. When there's no more of me, no more selfishness, and all your thoughts and intentions are truly and completely, wholeheartedly for all living beings. Mind's awake. Only with awakening can you be liberated. This liberation is what we call a ripeness. Only then can you save yourself and help others. Save yourself, no more reincarnation. That's a higher level of attainment. You no longer dwell in the realm of form. Your deluded thoughts have changed. After completely cutting off these attachments, we might ask, is there still discrimination? Is there still attachment? Our bodies are still in this world, still living together with everyone, still present and existing among all the people around us, interacting with others every day. So how could we not, in these circumstances, make distinctions between ourselves and those we meet? How could we not have attachments? If you truly had no discrimination or attachment, could you even be considered a person? If someone asks you, is this you? Who are you? And you say you don't know, you don't even know your own name, well, that wouldn't do. Not knowing is also attachment. Are you still attached? Just like Master Young just said, after enlightenment, even discrimination is not separate from oneness, then that's right. You say, does the Buddha discriminate or not? If the Buddha didn't discriminate, how could he teach us about purity? If there was no discrimination, he couldn't talk about purity. If there was no attachment, he couldn't talk about precepts. So, you see, even the Buddha discriminates, and even bodhisattvas have attachments. But their discrimination and attachment aren't for themselves. That's not the point. It's not about themselves. If it's not about themselves, then how do they discriminate and attach? When others discriminate and attach, I just go along with their way of seeing things. But in my own heart, I truly have no discrimination or attachment. That's right. This is what we Chinese call blending in with the world. It's also what the Buddha meant by adapting to others in the four means of embracing. We need to understand this in ourselves. We truly have no discrimination, no attachment. The discrimination and attachment of us beginner bodhisattvas actually goes along with sentient beings and joyfully follows emptiness. You really need to understand this principle, especially in this modern era. We ourselves must adjust our material life. Reduced all the way down to only the absolute bare minimum required, with nothing extra left. So, as long as I have 3 meals to fill me up, clothes to keep me warm, and a small house to shelter me from the wind and rain, that's enough. Material enjoyment should be reduced to the lowest level. But your spiritual life is elevated. Your spiritual life can most certainly be uplifted, just like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. That's what it means to be awakened. People in the world who aren't awakened are just the opposite. They continually strive to raise their material standards, always seeking more comfort and possessions, living in luxury and extravagance, indulging in all sorts of pleasures and excesses. However, despite all this, their spiritual life is completely empty, lacking any real substance or meaning, and is essentially non-existent. Excitement. They use these to balance themselves like a knife. Anesthesia needle. It's like taking drugs. There's no spiritual life at all. This is what the Buddhist scriptures often refer to as pitiful beings. These people are truly to be pitied. When this lifetime comes to an end, they fall into the lower realms. And when they are reborn, they lack wisdom and don't know how to cultivate blessings. They create countless negative karmas, and after death, they keep falling into the 3 evil paths. When we read in the sutras about the Buddha calling them a pitiful beings, it's only then that we truly understand what it means. They really are to be pitied.